There's a silent lie that many people believe. If you work hard enough, you'll inevitably become rich. I believe that too. Waking up early, going to bed late, taking on more responsibilities, working overtime. It all seemed logical that effort would equal prosperity. But time passed, exhaustion grew, and wealth remained distant. That's when I realized something uncomfortable. Hard work builds income, but it doesn't build wealth. Wealth is born from mindset, from invisible decisions, from internal rules that few people know and even fewer apply. There are mental patterns that separate those who merely survive from those who build assets, freedom, and the power to choose. And those rules aren't about physical strength. They're about how you think, how you see risk, money, time, and opportunity. Today, I'm going to share the 5 mental rules that completely changed my relationship with money, and that show why working hard isn't enough. If this topic resonates with you, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick with me. What you're about to hear might redefine the way you see wealth forever. First mental rule: stop selling time, start buying freedom. For years, I believed that the more I worked, the closer I'd get to wealth. I said yes to everything. Extra projects, longer hours, responsibilities that weren't even mine. At first, it felt like progress. The money increased a little. The recognition did too. But one thing didn't change. I was still trading hours of my life for money, and that model has a ceiling. The wake-up call came when I realized that people far wealthier than me weren't necessarily working more. They were thinking differently. While I was asking, how much can I earn if I work more? They were asking, how can I earn even when I'm not working? That shift in question changes everything. Wealthy people don't just sell time. They build systems, they invest, they create assets. They structure income streams that continue generating results even while they rest. Those who rely exclusively on their own labor are always limited by the number of hours in a day. I remember the exact moment I understood this. I was exhausted, financially better off than before, but emotionally drained. And I thought, if I stop today, everything stops. That sentence hit hard, because real wealth doesn't stop when you take a break. That's when I started studying assets. Small investments, side projects, something that could grow independently of my constant presence. At first it was small, but the mindset shift was massive. I stopped thinking only about monthly income and started thinking about building wealth. Hard work builds survival. Systems build wealth. That's the first mental shift. Move from the logic of direct exchange to the logic of multiplication. It's not about working less. It's about working with strategic intelligence. If you still believe that doubling your workload is the only way out, you might be stuck in the same model I was. Comment below. I don't just sell time, I build freedom. That sentence marks the beginning of your mental shift. Second mental rule: the wealthy prioritize assets, not appearance. There's a silent trap that keeps many people working hard and still staying broke. The need to look successful before actually becoming successful. I fell into that trap. When I started earning a little more, I felt the pressure to show progress. Better phone, better clothes, more expensive restaurants. Installments that seemed small on their own, but together created constant pressure. I was consuming symbols of wealth, not building wealth. The difference between a poor mindset and a wealthy mindset is this. While one prioritizes status, the other prioritizes assets. Wealthy people think, will this generate returns or just applause? It was uncomfortable to admit that many of my financial decisions weren't strategic. They were emotional. I wanted to prove something. To others. To myself. But every decision based on appearance delayed years of real construction. The turning point came when I started redirecting money that would have gone to immediate consumption into investments and productive assets. At first it felt invisible. There was nothing to show. No external validation. But internally, something shifted. I was accumulating silent power. While some people were trading money for likes, I was trading money for equity. This is a difficult mental rule because it requires emotional maturity. You have to tolerate the discomfort of not looking rich while you're building wealth. You have to ignore comparisons. You need long-term vision. Wealthy people understand that appearance is an expense. Assets are future freedom. I remember the day I refused to make a purchase I really wanted. Not because I couldn't afford it, but because that money would have a greater impact invested. It was a small decision, but a new identity was born there. If you want to become wealthy, you need to stop financing your image and start financing your future. Comment below. I prioritize assets, not appearance. That's more than a sentence. It's an identity shift. Third mental rule. The wealthy think in decades, not months. There's something that drastically separates those who build wealth from those who only temporarily improve their lifestyle. Time horizon. For a long time, my decisions were monthly. I thought about the next paycheck, the next bill, the next short-term goal. My vision was limited to the immediate. And when you think in months, your decisions are small. When you think in decades, your decisions change completely. I realized this by observing truly wealthy people. They weren't obsessed with quick results. They were committed to compounded growth. Every decision was guided by the question, will this strengthen me over the next 10 or 20 years? While I chased fast gains, they built foundations. A long-term mindset transforms your financial, emotional, and professional behavior. You begin to tolerate short-term discomfort because you understand you're playing a bigger game. You accept investing in learning, building reputation, planting seeds that may only bloom years later. I remember an investment I made that took a long time to generate returns. At first, I doubted it. I thought I had made a mistake, but someone told me something that changed my perspective. The problem isn't the investment. It's your time horizon. Wealthy people understand the power of compound interest, not just in money, but in reputation, skills, relationships, and discipline. When you think in decades, you don't waste energy on irrelevant short-term gains. You don't make impulsive decisions. You don't trade future stability for present comfort. You don't panic over temporary fluctuations. You become strategic. This mental rule also brings calm, because when you understand you're building something long-term, small losses don't shake your confidence. Small delays don't derail your plan. Hard work in the short term can generate income. A long-term mindset generates real wealth. Ask yourself, are you making decisions that strengthen your 20 years from now self? There's a point almost no one talks about when it comes to wealth. You can work hard, think long-term, and want to grow, but if your emotional relationship with money is still disorganized, everything becomes a repeated cycle. You evolve in theory, but in practice you still feel afraid of making mistakes, insecure about investing, guilty when spending, or anxious about planning the future. And that silent tension corrodes any strategy. Many people believe the problem is a lack of discipline, but most of the time it's a lack of internal clarity. It's not knowing exactly how to think about money. It's not having a method that organizes your mind before organizing your bank account. And until that foundation is built, any financial progress remains unstable. It was exactly from this pain that the Wealth Code was born. A guide created to transform your relationship with money from the inside out. It's not about magic formulas or quick promises. It's about security. It's about building a structured, clear, and strategic mindset using a simple and accessible methodology. It's about learning to handle money with calm, awareness, and direction, so you don't just earn more, you sustain more. Because wealth doesn't start in your balance. It starts in your mind. If you feel ready to stop repeating cycles and finally build security with lightness and autonomy, the link to the Wealth Code is in the first pinned comment. Fourth mental rule. The wealthy make decisions based on logic, not emotion. This was one of the hardest lessons for me, because no one likes to admit how much their emotions influence financial decisions. I've invested out of excitement. I've spent money out of frustration. I've turned down opportunities out of fear. And I've held on to money out of insecurity. In all of those moments, strategy wasn't in control. Emotion was. The problem is that emotion is unstable. And wealth requires mental stability. Wealthy people understand that money is cold. It doesn't respond to anxiety or euphoria. It responds to logic, analysis, and calculated risk. I clearly remember an opportunity that came my way. It looked incredible. Everyone was jumping in. There was a sense of urgency. I almost joined too, out of fear of missing out. But for the first time, I paused and asked a simple question. If I were completely calm, would I make this decision? The answer was no. That day I learned something powerful. Important financial decisions should never be made at an emotional peak. They analyze. They calculate. They project scenarios. They think about the worst-case outcome. They think long-term. That doesn't mean being cold or insensitive. It means protecting your assets from your own internal instability. Most people don't stay broke because they lack effort. They stay broke because of repeated emotional decisions over time. One poorly thought-out investment. One impulsive debt. One purchase for validation. One poorly analyzed partnership. Wealthy people understand that controlling money starts with controlling themselves. And here's something important. It's not about eliminating emotions. It's about not allowing them to make decisions on their own. When you learn to pause, analyze, and decide with clarity, your relationship with risk changes completely. You stop acting out of fear or greed and start acting strategically. This mental rule requires maturity. It requires patience. It requires self-control. But it's one of the most powerful protectors of wealth. Comment, I decide with strategy, not emotion. That alone can completely change your financial trajectory. Fifth mental rule. The wealthy take full responsibility for their financial lives. There's a brutal difference between those who build wealth and those who stay stuck in the same cycle. Responsibility. For a long time, I outsourced the blame. The economy was bad. The market was difficult. The salary was low. Opportunities were unfair. Some of that may even be true. But while I kept pointing outward, I was giving up control. The real turning point began the day I stopped asking, why is this happening to me? And started asking, what can I do from here? That shift seems simple, but it's brutally powerful. Wealthy people don't live in victim mode. They live in creator mode. If they lose money, they learn. If they make mistakes, they adjust. If they fail, they recalculate. But they never give up control. Taking full responsibility means accepting that. Your decisions shape your results. Your discipline defines your financial standard. Your knowledge determines your growth. Your behavior builds or destroys your wealth. I remember a specific moment when I made a bad investment. I could have blamed the market. I could have blamed the advice I received, but I chose to own it. I decided. I didn't analyze properly. I learn and move forward. That posture changes your energy, because when you take responsibility, you also take power. While blame paralyzes you, responsibility strengthens you. Wealthy people understand that the world owes them nothing. They build what they want with strategy, adaptation, and consistency. And here's something important. Responsibility doesn't mean self-blame. It means taking a stand. It means leaving the narrative of permanent injustice and stepping into the narrative of continuous construction. This mental rule is the foundation of all the others. Without responsibility, you work hard but complain. You earn money but waste it. You have opportunities but hesitate. With responsibility, you adjust faster. You learn faster. You grow faster. Ask yourself honestly, are you waiting for ideal conditions, or are you creating better ones? Comment, I take full responsibility for my wealth. That's the mindset that changes everything. Hard work builds income, but wealth requires mindset. These rules don't require luck. They require awareness, discipline, and an identity shift. If you keep only working hard, you may earn more. But if you change your mindset, you can build real wealth. Now tell me, which of these rules challenged you the most? If this video expanded your perspective, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and comment, I'm building wealth with a strategic mindset. Because wealth begins invisibly, in the way you think.